Hey everyone, this is Dr. Drizzle, and welcome to the National Parks Expedition Challenge. So today we are on a remote island in the middle of Lake Superior, part of the state of Michigan, about 16 miles from the Canadian and Minnesota border at Isle Royale, one of America's most beautiful national parks. And we are here with Ranger Liz. Ranger Liz, you get to come to work here every single day.
It's a treat, it's a pleasure every day to work in this kind of setting. Isle Royale's an island, so it's a fantastic spot.
It is, and let's make sure they understand that this is an island and there are only a few ways you can get here. Now, we actually came over on a seaplane. They didn't let me pilot it, but I'm sure I could. Oh, wait a minute now. I could have done that. But we could have also come over on a ferry. Are there any other ways to get here?
Unless you're coming in your own boat, it's a seaplane or ferry, it'd be too long to swim, so then it'd be pretty cold. So yeah, those are the two ways to get here.
Well, Ranger Liz, tell us how you got here many years ago.
I got here many years ago, and I was a historian at the time. I had just graduated from college and I was looking for a job. And I saw an advertisement for interns at Isle Royale working with the park historian. And I thought, parks have historians? That's incredible. I'm going to apply for that. And I'm lucky I got the job. I got hired at another park and I came back and I've been at Isle Royale ever since. The national parks became my career. I love it.
Oh, I love that. Now tell us a little bit about what an historian does.
Historians in the national parks do all kinds of things. Every park has a story. Every park has a history. And so the historians in parks and the archaeologists and the anthropologists, they work to find out that story and then to tell that story to the visitors.
So kids that are watching this that are interested in history, they don't need to worry that they might not find a job with the parks. It's not just science.
It's not just science. Science is one huge part of parks, and so is rangering, but the Park Service hires engineers, we hire accountants, we hire historians, like you know, so it's really a wide open opportunity for anybody who's interested in the National Park Service.
Well, let's just clear something up because I'm pretty sure I'm saying this place wrong. So I wanted to make it more fancy with Royale, but how do we pronounce this?
Well, I love Royale, and if we were honoring the way the French would say it, it would be Ile Royale. But it's definitely been Americanized, and it's always referred to by the National Park Service as Isle Royale.
Well, we are glad to be here at Isle Royale.
Yeah. But Isle Royale does have another name.
Oh.
Yeah, the Grand Portage Band of Lake Superior Chippewa and other native tribes called Isle Royale Minong, which means the good place. And I think you might agree, it is a good place.
I think they named it. They nailed that one, right? Yep. Well, tell us about this place. What makes it special?
Isle Royale, as I mentioned, Isle Royale's an island. So everything that happens here is dictated by Lake Superior. It influences the weather, it influences what plants grow here, it influences what fish are here, it influences the bird life and the mammal life. Just for an example, at Isle Royale, because we're an island, and as you mentioned, it's hard for people to get out here, it's hard for animals to get out here too. So at Isle Royale, there are very few mammals, only 18 species, whereas on the mainland in Minnesota, for example, or in Michigan, there's over 40 species of mammals. So it's not easy for anybody to get to Isle Royale.
Well, what would we find here?
So on Isle Royale, you might find, if you're lucky, you might see some of our big animals, the moose, for example.
Open.
Moose are all different places on the island, and sometimes they come around when you least expect it. You might just be getting up in the morning and you hear some chomping. Happened to me just the other morning in my residence. I looked out, there's a moose having breakfast right outside my window. And then also the other species that a lot of people maybe have heard of at Isle Royale is the wolf population. So we do have this long-running predator-prey relationship between wolves and moose. But that's not all that's here. We have red squirrels. The red squirrels out here, if you spend half an hour, you'll understand the red squirrels are really, really loud and they talk all the time. So we have red squirrels. We also have some creatures that live in the water. Beavers. There's a lot of beavers around. I love watching the beavers swim around and wondering where they're going to build another lodge or another dam. They do make it challenging for us. Every spring we come back, we're not really sure what's going to be flooded. They're very active. And then we also have otters, and everybody likes to watch otters. They're so fun.
We also have some flying things, and we're not going to talk about the little bugs that are flying up my nose right now.
Yep.
But what about the birds? What kind of birds will we find here?
So there is a lot of waterfowl here. You might see loons. In fact, we have one of the largest nesting populations of loons right on Lake Superior. So a lot of times this time of year, you'll see loons. You'll see young loons that have grown up. Mergansers, various different kinds of ducks. And then we also have birds of prey. We have eagles nesting on the island and osprey. Most visitors will see an eagle. I see an eagle almost every day. So we do have a lot of raptors and then the general waterfowl. We do have a lot of warblers that pass through Isle Royale as well. So a lot of songbirds. In fact, every spring we do a songbird survey to determine what songbirds are here.
Do you have any monarchs here?
We do have monarchs. I haven't seen as many in past years. I know that's been a problem, but yes, I did see some monarchs this year. A lot of swallowtail butterflies as well, and a lot of moths.
Wonder if we're walking and we're not stepping in the right place. Are we going to find any creatures on the ground here?
You will find some creatures on the ground, not as many as other places. For example, we only have 2 kinds of snakes. For some people, that's a great thing. They're not really excited about snakes. I love snakes, so I'm kind of disappointed there's only 2. We have garter snakes and we have red-bellied snakes, and that's it. We also have a lot of toads. We have really, really big toads. Toads at Isle Royale don't really have any predators, and so they just grow and grow and grow. We have some of the biggest toads in the Great Lakes area here at Isle Royale, actually.
So a lot of animals here.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about your plant life.
So for plants, we have a couple different kinds of forests, and that dictates what's growing there. So we have a boreal forest. In the boreal forest, you'll see trees that grow in a northern climate. So spruce and fir. We have some beautiful little flowers that grow mostly only in boreal forests. A number of orchids, lady slippers, for example, are beautiful, and that's really something that only grows in a northern climate. On the northeast end of the island, we see that boreal forest. But on the west and southwest end of the island, there's a little more land mass. It's a little bit warmer. We do have more of a northern hardwoods forest there, so we're seeing more maples, oaks, and trees like that, and some other flowers. One thing you'll see here at Isle Royale, wherever you go, is thimbleberries, though. Thimbleberries are delicious. I don't know if you've ever had thimbleberries. They are blooming and they're just delicious. They're kind of like a raspberry, a tart raspberry. They grow across the island. Moose don't eat thimbleberries, so they're growing everywhere.
So I saw a sign near the visitor center that had edible berries. So I also read that you need to know what they are, though, before you eat them, because some berries could be poisonous, right?
Yeah, some berries could make you very sick. So we always encourage people to know what you're going to eat before you eat it, but there are many wonderful berries here to eat, like blueberries, for example. There's blueberries all over. And they're delicious.
Like a great parfait in the making.
Yes, definitely
Maybe for
is.
lunch, honey, we can do that. Tell us a little bit about how this place became a national park.
Isle Royale is really kind of an old park in terms of how parks go. Isle Royale was first authorized in 1931, so it's a while ago. And at the time, there was some concern that Isle Royale maybe would be totally logged over. Some concerned citizens got together, kind of lobbied to see if Isle Royale become either a state park or a national park. And their efforts worked. So in 1931, Isle Royale was authorized to become a park, and then it was established in 1940. So we've been a park since 1940, and that's really a long time for, in terms of some parks.
Has anyone lived here full time?
Some people did. Nobody lives here year-round now, but in the past people did. So there were people who lived out here and they caught fish. They were commercial fishermen, because in Lake Superior, we didn't even talk about the fish, but Lake Superior has wonderful populations of lake trout. And there were enough at the time that the fishermen could catch lake trout as they were like fish farmers almost. They were catching lake trout. And so some of those fishermen did stay out here all winter long. There's a great story about a little boy who grew up at Hay Bay, and he never set foot on the mainland until he was 7 years old. And when he did get to the mainland, could you imagine what it would be like? He didn't, he didn't know what it's like riding in a car. Everything was different for him.
Wow. You mentioned that the Native American or the indigenous people called this the
They call this place Manong.
Manong. Were there indigenous people that lived here?
There were. We don't have a lot of evidence that they lived here year-round, but there's definitely use back and forth for seasonal purposes. Same reasons we would come here, right? Catch fish, to pick berries. Also, Isle Royale, the geology is such that there's very pure copper here, and we definitely know that indigenous people came to mine that copper and use it for tools and for ornaments and in trade.
Is that still being mined today?
No, there's not. Not in the island. There's still copper around. I mean, you still sometimes can see it, but there's no active mining going on. There hasn't been since the 1890s.
We saw a trail that's talked about, was it the Shackelford mine or
The Smithwick mine.
Smithwick mine, and that was actually a working mine?
There was a working mine where in Rock Harbor, there was a working mine in the 1840s, and that was pretty limited technology. You're basically, smashing stuff with a hammer and picking up the copper. So yeah, there were kind of three copper mining phases in the 1840s, the 1870s, and then a little bit in the 1890s. There hasn't been any mining since then. That was long before the park became a park.
So this place has a rich history. It has great flora and fauna. It has great places for people to come and recreate and to fish, which I love to do, and just be in nature. We know that John Muir says that there's just times when we just need to be quiet and listen to nature around us. But I bet you also face some challenges here as a national park. Can you talk a little bit about maybe what we're standing on and maybe a challenge you have with this?
Every park has challenges, right? All over, and a lot of the challenges that we've been seeing in the last few years are related to changes in the climate. So Lake Superior level sometimes goes up, sometimes drops down. That's been happening more frequently. And also we're having much more severe storms than we've seen in past years. And one of the issues that we have, as you know, Isle Royale is a water-based park, so boat use for us is really important. And a number of our visitors they're either coming on a ferry or they're coming in their own personal boat. So we have a lot of docks. And in the wintertime, the docks really take a lot of beating from the high water levels or low water levels, and then huge sheets of ice in the wintertime get smashed up against the docks. And it's an ongoing problem for us. We have a number of docks right now that we can't even use because over the winters, they've been broken down so much that we can't even use the docks anymore. It's really an ongoing problem for us. And the challenge would be to think of potentially a new way to make docks.
Well, I know some people that may have some ideas. And let's remind our kids that we're only April to October here. So you're not out here in December chipping away the ice and protecting this.
We come back in April and we see what happened.
Well, you heard it, kids. Our Royale needs your help, especially Ranger Liz, because she would like to be able to solve this problem for the National Park Service with your help. So thinking about goal number 13, which is climate change, and also goal number 9, which is industry, infrastructure, and innovation. How could you take these docks, knowing that they need to be able to be sturdy enough for a boat to dock, for multiple people to be able to walk on? How could you refigure this, reimagine what these docks look like? Could you build them out of different types of materials? Could you work where the docks were retractable or foldable so that when they leave in October, they could just fold those away so that the ice and the snow wouldn't bang against them so much? You see, we know that you solve problems better than we as adults because sometimes we get stuck in our ways and we think that could never work, but you guys know better. So thinking about the engineering design process, I want you to research Isle Royale. I want you to look at the docks, and I want you to see how can you build a prototype of a new type of dock, and we're going to give it to Ranger Liz and all of Ranger Liz's people and see if it might be workable out here. Wouldn't it be cool
That would
if
be
kids
cool.
around the country solved
Hmm.
this problem? Because I bet you have another problem they could work on next time,
We
right?
definitely do. Yeah, there's many, many things that we could have them work on in the future. Every park's facing different issues, and as time goes on, there's different ones that come up. So yeah, we're ready to try something new for sure.
So we'll try this one first. So what we want you to do is to build that prototype. Make sure you have some really good blueprints. Ask your teacher for some graph paper. Really understand the idea of hydraulics. Talk about simple machines. How could you retract or fold something up? Test materials. See if you can go to a local hardware store or a lumber store and ask, can you have some old scraps? And then test them out. Freeze them. Throw ice on them. Leave them in water over a long period of time. See what materials actually hold up better. Build that prototype, and then you're going to share that on social media. Make sure you tag me at Dacia92, but also make sure that you tag Isle Royale National Park because they want to hear your ideas too. As you know, we stay very busy, so once we get this idea to them, we're going to let them run with it. We're excited to see what you can create. In fact, there's a lot of money that can be made in engineering and designs. And did you know there's actually an engineer called a materials engineer? And all they do is they test different materials that can be used for building bridges or building elevators or building skyscrapers or building, you got it, docks. I'm excited because we know the national parks wants everyone to feel that they are stewards
Hmm.
of this place. It belongs to all of us. It's the best idea that we've ever had, right? The national parks are one of the best ideas, and we need you to solve those problems. I can't wait. Now get ready though, because once we put this out there, these ideas are
Good.
you're gonna have all of these great little ideas. We may have to ship a few over, some small
Yeah,
prototypes.
maybe we could try them out here. That sounds
Absolutely.
good.
We could
Yep.
put them in the water and
Yep.
see how long they last.
Hmm.
Well, we talked to thousands of kids, and they're all interested in becoming, you got it, a ranger. They want the flat hat. You know,
Yes, of
they
course.
really like those things, and they like the uniforms and the colors. Can you look in that middle camera right there and just give the kids a little bit of advice, if you will, on what they can start doing right now to get your job?
I think the most important thing when you're thinking about getting a job with the National Park Service is to be flexible and don't feel like you have to just be a scientist. You could be a historian, you could be an accountant, you could be an engineer. There are so many opportunities and possibilities. So, whatever you're interested in, personally, you can make that fit in the National Park Service. And it's definitely something that will benefit the parks and it'll benefit you and it'll benefit the whole country for sure.
Well, I think that is great advice. And I just want to thank you so much for inviting us to come here because we really wouldn't have been able to do this without your invitation. And we thank you for allowing us to come and film and to stand on this dock and tonight to possibly see the Northern Lights. There's just we didn't talk about the Northern Lights, but that's research for you guys. So don't forget that. But thanks so much for having us.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for coming.
So one more time, thank you so much for being here with us. We can't wait to see what you create. This is Dr. Drizzle and Ranger Liz from Isle Royale, and we're out of here.